What's up, everybody? It's comedian Sherwin Arae, and I am so excited to introduce you guys to my podcast, Call Me Crazy with Sherwin Arae. This is the official launch of the podcast. This has been a long time coming, and I am so excited to have you all here with me. Today, I could not think of anyone better to have as my first guest than I interview on my first podcast than my friend Darren Miller. This guy has such an incredible story. When you guys hear what this guy has been through, where he's come, where he is today, you're going to be absolutely blown away. I mean, I met this guy. I did a show that was sponsored by Mike Tyson years ago, a comedy show. And Darren was one of the speakers on the show. And that's actually where I met him. And Darren is going to be able to explain this a little bit better, but he was initially diagnosed years ago with stage 4 cancer. And he was able to beat it and cure himself. And today he's healthier than you and I. The guy's got a kick-ass personality, hell of a guy, beautiful family man, friend. Just, I love this dude, man. I don't want to talk about him anymore because he's going to just, let's bring Darren onto the show. Darren, come on in, brother.
Well, how you doing, crazy? You said call you. There you go. Now, how you doing, Sherwin? Nice to see you today.
What's going on? Dude, I am so happy to have you on the show, man, and just to have you here. You know, being my first podcast, you're the guy that I want to come out of the gate, you know, interviewing. Just, Darren, you know, your story is so incredible. It's just, you don't hear about this anymore. Most people that are diagnosed with cancer, unfortunately, don't make it past it, you know, to talk about it. You did. You know, take me through this journey. You know, how did you first find out that you even had cancer? Like, what was it? Did you go in for a regular checkup, or did you just notice something weird going on with your body? How did you know you had cancer?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me to be your very first a guest on your podcast. I'm truly privileged to be able to sit here and do this, and also to be alive. Yes, when I got sick, I was just living normal life. I was a stage 3 multiple sclerosis patient using a cane sometimes to get around, living on my disability after working for 26 years, and finally have, you know, just a stable income from my Social Security, staying at home, taking care of myself, and taking actually self-injected interferon shots weekly to keep the MS at bay. And that's how my life was. My wife was working as a drug and alcohol counselor, going through school, working towards her PhD at the time. And here's how it happened. I had woke up one morning like any other morning, and I had gained 7 pounds in my sleep. Now,
in one night?
In one evening on my sleep, yes. So here's how this works. I retained fluid in my body overnight, and my chest was swollen, and my heart was only beating a few times a minute, which means I was in complete heart failure, and I didn't know why. And of course, the wife jumps me in the car, and we go 5 minutes away to our local hospital. And the ER attending physician rushed me back and did an ultrasound, like they kind of look at a baby inside you and see that my heart, you have a pericardium about this big with your heart inside of it. And it beats, and it's got pericardial fluid in there, about 75 milliliters of fluid. And that's your heart's protection by a shock absorber. That's how your heart works. Mine had 890 milliliters of fluid, so my heart sac was this big inside my chest. That's why it was swollen. And it was blood, not pericardial fluid. So they did what's called a pericardiocentesis. They stick a huge needle in your chest and push and drain all this fluid into a bag. And at that time, we seen it was a yellowish red fluid. And my ER attending heart doctor said, "This looks cancerous. I'm not an oncologist, but you're in trouble."
Oh.
So they got me stabilized. They drained that fluid, and I felt incredible, but I'm still in the hospital. This was on July 26th of 2015. 5 days later, it's my 50th birthday, July 31st. My wife brings in a cupcake with a candle in it, and I blow it out for my birthday. Then I go into open heart surgery because my heart filled back full of blood again. Now I am in what they call tamponade. Your heart's being pushed by pressure. It quits and slows down its beating. So they knew they had to do something because I was in dire straits. So here's long story short. They opened my chest up and seen that I had stage 4 lung adenocarcinoma, lung cancer, that had metastasized to the pericardial heart sac and grew blood vessels inside of it and started bleeding out. So at this point, my doctor puts what's called a pericardial window in my heart sac, a little hole about the size of a dime, drains all the fluid into my body cavity, and then packs my heart with talcum powder to slow down and coagulate that bleeding. Sews me up, and I wake up in recovery, and there he is with my wife, and he says, you guys need to get your affairs in order. The last time on record that anybody has had this diagnosis, the longest survivability was 2.7 months. So he said, you are definitely going to pass away within the next 3 months. So, wow. I mean, my God. Talk about crazy, but that is how it started. I had stage 4 lung cancer that metastasized to my heart.
Darren, hold on a second here. 2.7 months. I mean, what went through your mind when you heard that?
Denial. I mean, right away, the doctor says there's nothing they can do. Get your affairs in order. Well, I'm an MS patient. I've been through a lot of things in my life where I have been in trouble, close to death with things. And I've never had a doctor tell me that you need to buy a casket. You need to get your affairs in order. That's kind of what he's told us. So we sat in a hospital about another week until the bleeding slowed down enough and coagulated enough to where they could release me to go home. And just to start it all off, my little brother came into the hospital. He also has multiple sclerosis. So does my cousin and my brother's daughter. So 4 people in our immediate family have MS. And now I'm being told on top of that I have a very rare terminal cancer that is unbeatable. The wife, complete denial. Me, acceptance has to start very quickly because, it was a serious mind fuck. It was pretty crazy, but she never accepted it. And that's how we ended up being where we are today because of her tenacity of what she had learned from my little brother while I was in the hospital.
And when you say denial, Darren, do you mean, she said, no, the doctor must be wrong. There must be some mistake. I want a second, third, fourth, and fifth opinion. Or was denial more, look, I don't care what you have. You're going to beat this and we're going to make it through it.
Yeah, we're not talking about the Egyptian river here. Denial was, they said there's no possible way. We even Googled and everything about this condition. And there's just very little information about it. But the information that is out there shows you that people who have this condition cannot live because, first of all, you're living without pericardial fluid in your heart. That's what protects your heart from everything, from shock absorption to just everyday beating and high blood pressure and things. It's a regulator. So she was in the stage right then that there's no. It was like someone to call you right now and to say your child was ran over by a lawnmower and chewed up. You're thinking, this is just, that's how horrible of a feeling it is for someone to tell someone that you love that there's nothing they can do for you. So yeah, we're talking denial. We're talking, there's just no way she was going to accept this. And like I said, the tenacity of that is how it got me here to today. My brother, when I was in the hospital, came to the hospital and told us about a gentleman in the United States who was working with this medicine called RSO oil. It's called Rick Simpson oil. That's the gentleman's name.
Right.
He was a gentleman who figured this out and was ran out of the States because they said he was practicing medicine without a license. What basically you do is you take a cannabis, not a hemp, a cannabis, a marijuana, and you wash it with a solvent, and then you cook the solvent into a grease, and that grease is pure THC, which is tetrahydrocannabinol delta 9, and that is the part of cannabis that gets you actually high when you use it. So
you have my attention.
Yes, you cannot take a raw cannabis and juice it or a dry cannabis and eat it and actually feel it. There's this chemical thing that has to happen called decarboxylation. That's where you apply heat to the cannabinoids and then they flip to THC and then you inhale it if you're smoking it and you feel it. If you're eating it, you ingest it while it's decarboxylated. It gets into the system, and once the bloodstream kicks in, it breaks the blood-brain barrier and goes to the CB1 and CB2 receptors of a humanoid brain. Now, all mammals have what's called an endocannabinoid system in their body, and that regulates all functions of your body. And if you use cannabis the right way, like our ancestors did, you can achieve homeostasis. Now, say Sherwin moved to Canada. It's cold as hell up there. You're from LA. But being there 6 months, your body acclimates to the environment, and then you reach homeostasis, which means you are now functioning normally in that environment. Your body works the same way, and people don't realize that cannabis has been used since the beginning of time. It was in our food chain. Animals ate raw, wild hemp and cannabinoids, and then we ate them, and it was then in our food chain and in our bodies. until they canceled it out, cut it all down and made it illegal, people were a lot healthier. There wasn't a lot of cancer around till later into the middle of the 1900s or so, because they didn't even know what to call it. They called it consumption. The poor bastard in the Wild West just died of consumption. We opened him up, and he was
as in overeating?
Consumption. He was consumed. They didn't know what it was. Now they have pinpointed the fact that there's hundreds of cancers, and it is just basically your body being out of whack with the environment you're living in.
Yeah.
They could say there's 1,000 causes from it. I was a cigarette smoker. I still smoke a little bit. I still smoke a lot of cannabis. After having lung cancer, people can't understand that. But the statistics, real numbers show that we're going to use the number of 500 million people in the world use tobacco, but only a very small percentage, like a percentage, like one, actually get lung cancer. Now, is it good for you? Absolutely not. Inhaling anything into your system is probably not good for you, but it could cause a COPD type situation, a breathing problem, but not everyone can get cancer.
So Darren, you just mentioned that, the body has this way of adapting. Like if you were to move from LA where it's really hot to Canada where it's really cold, the body goes through this like transformation process. Marriage is the same way, how your body changes after, but we'll get into that.
Yes.
I want you to finish. I'm a comic. I can't turn it off. So I want you to finish where you where you left off with that story from the body changing. So please pick up right from there.
Whenever you go anywhere and you are foreign to that type of environment, usually the human body, which being such an incredible machine that it is, acclimates to it. And then once it does, then you are healthier in that environment.
Right.
So anywhere you go, that's going to happen. And this happens with foods. If you're eating a lot of sugars and a lot of crazy things, you're going to have repercussions for that. But if you are eating very healthy things for your body is going to reach what's called homeostasis. And that's something you can look up. For one thing I want to tell your audience is anything I say, take a note and go research it yourself. That's the problem with everything today. You cannot take anything verbatim that is said from a friend, a family, or even the news anymore. You have to do your own research.
100%.
And in that research, you also have to find out and pick through everything. What is propaganda? What is real information? But we still have the ability to do that with multiple search engines. Google will not lie to you. YouTube will cut you off. Twitter will tell you you're racist. Facebook says you're a bigot. So you need to research on your own everything, including what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if you get super sick, almost with any condition, cannabinoids can help you throughout that condition and actually improve your life.
Wow.
Now, cannabinoids also have, marijuana and cannabis have what's called terpenes in it. Anything you could smell. Weed smells like skunk sometimes. That's because it has a terpene profile that makes it smell that way. An orange, you can squeeze it or drink an orange, you can smell orange. That is a cannabinoid. It's a terpene.
That's incredible.
Not a cannabinoid, it's a terpene. That means it smells. So someday they will be able to manipulate our foods and our medicines that are natural plants and be able to make them all kind of like a cannabis to where they could be functional as a medicine. But it's just going to take real studies, and like cannabis, which is not legal enough to where they can physically study it. That's how my cancer story started. We found out that the National Cancer Society was injecting high THC into animals and rats in the 70s to try to prove that it was very bad for you and causing problems.
Hold on. In the 70s?
In the 1971, Richard Nixon was doing this.
According to my math, it's 2022. That's a hell of a long time. I mean, what came of that?
Well, of course, you know how it all started. Cannabis was called marijuana, which is not even a word, because they were trying to convince the American public throughout the 40s, 50s, and 60s that there was this horrible drug being snuck in from Mexico. Marijuana sounds kind of Mexicanish, sounds Spanish. So they were saying that the African-American jazz musicians were giving this to the white women and raping them, and it was just horrible. Now, that's how the story started with cannabis prohibition. But it really come about after Nixon studied it in the 70s and proved that cannabinoids can actually kill tumors. And like I said, the clinical term for that is called...
in the 70s that this can kill tumors? In the 70s?
In the 70s. It's called apoptosis. It is the natural way for a body to kill a cell. Here's how it works. Every cell has a nucleus, has a mitochondria, has these different things that make it a cell, even a cancer cell. But if a cancer cell is killed by cytotoxic chemicals like a chemo, you're poisoning it to death. If your body gets rid of a cell on its own, starves it to death, it's committing suicide. The most natural way to kill a cell in your body is for it to either be programmed from your brain to die at a certain time or for it to commit suicide. And when you take these heavy cannabinoid THC medicines, it goes right to the mitochondria of the cell, causes an uptake in ceramide, which is something a cell needs to as food, but it shuts off its eating mechanism and starves to death. That is called apoptosis. THC oil causes apoptosis in animal studies in the 70s. And when they found out they were curing cancer, Nixon shut it down, and it's been hidden ever since. But of course, with the modern society we have now with computers and the internet, this information is public information now. When my wife heard this from my little brother, we got a hold of the person we needed to find this medicine. It was only legal in Colorado and medicinally in California. This was in 2015. So this is how me and you end up meeting. Right. We jump in a car. I am dying of cancer with multiple months to live. Can't even do chemotherapy because I'm so sick, I'm dying. We jump in her Volkswagen, a little Beetle, and drive for 3 days to California under the expert tutelage of Mark Pedersen, a gentleman who understands this medicine. So we get to California, we're looking for one thing. We're looking for a very high THC oil that the old hippies used to call hash oil. Mm-hmm. It's what you get when you cook cannabis into a grease. And you ingest it over an amount of time, doubling it until you reach a large dose, and you stay on it for months. And that's how you accumulate enough in your system to cause this apoptosis, this tumor cell death. So we drive to California. We're looking for a medicine nobody knows about. It's also called FECO, F-E-C-O. That is a full plant extracted cannabis oil. Buds, trim leaves, and little bitty stems, all that's put into a vat, crunched up, covered with Everclear alcohol. That's a solvent, by the way. It's not really something you should be drinking. It's a solvent. It says it right on the bottle. I got one right here. It says extracted infused. It's a solvent. So Everclear you make your jungle juice out of should not be drank. It's made to wash as a solvent, maybe clean automobile parts or what have you. It is what it is. But once you use that to wash this cannabis and get this medicine off of the leaves, you throw the plant away and you cook this into a grease. We're running all over California. I'm dying of cancer trying to find this medicine. No dispensary out there has it really that we know of, and it's only medicinal, so you have to live in California. Here's how I beat the system. The first day in California, I download a lease off the internet that says, I'm going to rent an apartment in LA, and I'm going to fill it out myself and take it to a doctor, a 420 doctor. And he's going to look at my condition. He's going to give me a state marijuana card for the state of California. Right. So we did that, and it worked. The first 20 minutes we were in California, I had my hand on a card. Now I'm an official patient living there looking for this medicine. We look around and we can't find it. It's getting to be late the first evening, and I am just in the car crying with the wife. There's nothing we can do because this miracle dream we're chasing for this medicine is just not here. So we make one phone call to one dispensary after looking at a dozen of them. It was called the Emerald Room. It was in Hollywood, California on Melrose Avenue. Very explicit. They were making this medicine and other cannabinoid medicines and buds and weed to sell to very rich, prominent Hollywood athletes and actors. My. Well, we explained to the owner, his name was Mike Brown, that we needed this. He said, come in, I think I have some. So we get to his store, and he has one little syringe of this grease marked RSO oil. We go, how did they make that? Because, well, these old hippie guys wash cannabis with alcohol, then they cook it into it. I said, perfect. Don't even explain it. That's what we're looking for. So we bought 26 grams. The protocol to beat cancer is to eat 60 grams in a 90-day period. You want to eat a gram a day, but it's so powerful, you can't. So you start off very small and you double it for a month. And after a month of eating it, you could be up to a gram a day. And then for the next 2 months, you eat a gram a day. That's a 3-month protocol. When you have cancer, they scan your body. Okay. They'll scan you, say, here's your pictures, you have cancer. 3 months later, every cancer patient gets scanned again. That's how it works. They can see their progression with their chemotherapies and their radiations. Well, me, I'm not on any kind of chemo or radiation. First of all, you can't radiate a heart. Second of all, I'm not healthy enough to do chemo. So we find the medicine and we buy it. And here's the Mike Tyson connection. We bought it and did not know for a few months that where we had bought it. First of all, Tommy Chong beat his prostate cancer by buying the exact same product from the exact same store from Mike Brown.
And let me just stop you for a second, Darren.
Yes.
This store that you called, this was just one you just happened to randomly pick.
Well, we went to places.
Out of all the places out here, you just happened to pick this one, and they just happened to have. Do you realize the odds of that?
Yeah, that's just how this is so crazy. And we did go to a dozen places.
You talk about fate, and you talk about someone upstairs is really pulling for you, man, because the things you're doing just are unheard of, and they're working. I mean, yes. For you to just randomly pick one and call, and they happen to have the exact one that you need is just, I'm dumbfounded.
Now, the thing is, they used to use this in the old days just to eat it or put it. This cannabis oil is an active cannabinoid. It's already been decarboxylated. I told you it's already active THC. So you could squirt it on a joint or on a cigarette and smoke this grease and get higher than hell. But our intention is to eat it to cause something kind of change in the physical system of the body.
Right.
Now, the dispensary we bought it from, called the Emerald Room, just happened to be an undercover investment by Mike Tyson in the marijuana industry. Nobody knew this. Nobody. He told us that, of course, when we're in the process of getting it from him a few times. And that's how the Mike Tyson connection came in. Until I cured my cancer and become famous overnight for it, that's whenever Tyson Ranch and his marijuana people, it's actually called Tyson Holistic Holdings, had got a hold of us through Mr. Brown and said, hey, they want you to come out here and work for his new marijuana company that he started. So
what a journey.
That's how that happened. And then that led to me meeting you at an event that he had me go to.
Right.
But the gist of it is we bought medicine, came home, I ate it, started feeling better. Started getting better enough to where they said, hey, you're not dying anymore. Doctors are making fun of me. My oncologist
is
saying. This was
my next point is, what were the doctors saying when you were going in there and they're looking at you like, you're getting better? What the hell's going on?
Yeah. So we see the doctors and he, first of all, like I said, he's making fun of me. He knew that we told him, we don't care what you think. We're going to California to buy some medical marijuana oil. I'm going to eat it.
And he laughed at you like you're out of your mind. Good luck.
He said, go home and eat your salad. Go home and smoke your weed.
What a dick.
He says, keep doing what you're doing because you are getting better. And they were doing nothing at the point. So I did at that point do a couple chemotherapies, which made me sick as hell. We ended up not being able to do chemo anymore after a while because I had a reaction where I fell out in a chemo session and they had to use the adrenaline in my heart to restart my life. I fucking died in chemotherapy on the floor. My wife was sitting right next to me. So chemotherapy is now out of the question if I ever get sick again. So I eat this daily to keep it in my system.
Well, that was my next question. If someone is healthy and does not have cancer, can they take this as a preventative measure and just eat it just to, like a vitamin almost?
Yes. Now, you can, but until it's legalized federally and studied the correct way, we're not going to know. But from what me and my wife have seen now, after helping thousands of people over the last 7 years do this, by the way, it's been 7 years I've been cancer-free since I ate that medicine. Unbelievable.
And they
3
told
months
you
to
you
live,
had 2 months.
7 years this July 31st, my 57th birthday. So I get terminal cancer and open heart surgery on July 31st, 2015. This July 31st, 2022 is exactly 7 years from my open heart surgery when I seen that I would die. So the gist is we don't know if it can. We just know we have seen people who do the protocol the way it's supposed to be done. Works for them. Now, medicine is not a guarantee in any form. Nothing is a guarantee. But something so harmless, most people don't realize, Sherwin, that nobody's ever been harmed or died from marijuana use in the history of mankind. Not one person.
Correct.
It's more dangerous to have it on you and be caught with it illegally than it is to be taking it in any form. A 50-pound bale dropped from the ceiling on your head will kill you. That's the only way it can hurt you. Now, is it for everybody? No, it's not. But then again, if you could grow a Tylenol in your yard, the pharmaceutical company would be pretty upset because you wouldn't be going to the store and buying Tylenol.
Correct. Sure.
Now that they know that cannabinoids can stop grand mal seizures, even hemp, there's some serious implications of why they don't want this to go mainstream, because right now, all the states have legalized and are controlling it themselves. What's going to happen when the federal government gets their hands in this? They're going to run it like anything else. So the bottom line is, if you get cancer, do what your doctor says. and supplement with a natural THC cannabis oil, you are doing everything you can. So if you do not get the same results, at least when you're gone, your family and loved ones could say, we tried everything.
Right.
That's pretty much what we're pushing today, though. But the Mike Tyson connection was, he found out I'm doing this and that his medicine saved my life. And they call me up and they want to make me a superstar. Well, at that exact time, Mike was going through some crises of his own. He's doing much better now because we met him. He was, having some troubles with his own personal life and his addictions and things.
Sure.
And then he started getting better and using hallucinogens like his toad, that stuff from a frog. It's crazy, but people do it and it's a medicine. And then the cannabis alone, he said, has saved his life. So we meet Mike, we get introduced to him, we get out to his place, and now they're going to put on this big event in Anaheim, I believe it was.
Yeah, Anaheim, very good.
They want me to come and do a speaking part at this comedy show. That's where we met.
That's right.
And my boss, who is Rob Hickman, he's actually a producer that did all the Kickboxer movies. He's Mike's boss. Sure. He told me one thing. He said, I'm going to let you go on stage in front of all these people, but don't tell any jokes. You're not a fucking comedian. So guess what I did? I go out there, the first thing I do when I'm in front of these 1,000 people is tell a joke, and I like to retell it. Here it is. I walk up, I grab the mic, my first time in front of people ever like this, and I say, hey, me and the wife just landed in LA, and we're going through Inglewood in our rental car, and as I'm driving by, my son's in the car, my little boy. Somebody throws a dildo and hits the windshield, and it bounces off. And my son said, Daddy, what was that? I said, we just hit a bug. He goes, did you see the size of the dick on that bug? That was the first joke I told. The crowd broke out, and it pissed off my producer, Rob Hickman, but it was also very funny. There was no repercussions.
Darren, the fact that you pulled that off, if we could do it all over again, I would tell you do it exactly like that.
It was good.
What a story. Oh, my God. I wanted to also ask you, for people who are on chemo, if they do take this cannabis oil, does it conflict with the chemo? Do the two fight with each other, or are they completely like...
Well, they're doing the same thing. Chemotherapy kills all the small cells in your body, all of the small cells. There's different size cells, but cancer is a very small cell that grows into larger clumps. So chemotherapy eradicates all the small cells in your body, and then your immune system kicks back in after a few days of taking it and starts regenerating cells. You just hope it don't regenerate the cancer cells.
Right.
So chemotherapy, they're using the same medicine in chemotherapy now that they did 50 to 70 years ago. Where's all that money for all the pink ribbons and all that shit? That's what I want to know. Where's all this study medicine going? Okay. Those are called cytotoxic chemicals. They take over the body. What people don't realize is your body's a machine. If you put fuel in the front and waste comes out the back, if you're eating and shitting, you can stay alive. I don't care how sick you get. Your body is a machine. You could lose 100 pounds, be on IVs, have cancer killing you until you start having organ failure. Cancer doesn't kill people. Organ failure and body, not working is what does it. So as long as you are eating and pooping, you can stay alive. I don't care how sick you are.
The American
so
dream,
it's important that you know that. If you get cancer, they say, well, don't eat sugars, don't eat this, don't eat that. I had terminal cancer with 3 months to live. I was eating cheeseburgers, pizza, cake, Skittles, candy, pixie sticks. I was eating and pooping. I was staying alive. So that's the bottom line.
Wow.
Don't worry about what the food's going to do to you. You have to eat. So I tell any cancer patient, the doctor says, do not eat. Well, if there's things you cannot eat because you just can't eat them, when you have cancer, everything don't taste good. It's bad. I mean, it tastes like cardboard, everything. You're crying, trying to eat. You can't swallow. You're a mess. You find what you can eat and you eat it. First of all, keep that body machine running.
Yeah.
Then secondary, start working on what you could do to improve the condition. A lot of it is mental. Now, I'm not a very religious person because I was raised in a Pentecostal church and was abused by the deacons and raped as a kid in church. Now, we're not talking full-blown penetration and this and that, but I was abused. And first of all, that did not make me a homosexual when I grew up. I knew the difference. Those were men doing horrible things to me. It wasn't God. So once I was able to put that in his rearview mirror as a teenager, I was able to pursue religion. I've tried every one of them. People have to realize that there's been more death in the world over religion than any other reason. So I don't tell anyone who has a faith that I don't believe in what they believe in. That's what they believe in.
Yeah.
Hope is what make people survive. If you're doing something and you have hope, you can survive as long as you're feeding, eating, and pooping. So when it comes down to it, pray to your God, whoever that is. Okay. Get that feeling of wholeness and hope, and then pursue things like the cannabis oil, other medicines. They have a right to try law, Sherwin. Have you heard of this?
Yeah.
They passed it back in Trump's era. Any medication in the world that they are studying, if you are dying, you have a right to try it.
Wow.
But cannabis
Darren,
is not in that because it is not legal or even being studied right now. So it's still kind of taboo to use marijuana and eat it for cancer. But I can guarantee you could do this if you are sick, and back to doing it after you're sick or if you're not sick.
Yeah.
I would think something that kills tumors in your body is healthy for you. If you do it when you're not sick,
Absolutely.
may prevent it from happening in the first place. Yes.
Darren, I'm blown away at your knowledge, at your story, at you as a person. I lost my mother to cancer in 2015 before I met you. And I wish I would have met
cancer,
you.
Sherwin? What you have?
Pancreatic. It's
and
one
that,
of the most
believe it or not,
aggressive
that's
ones.
the hardest one.
Yeah, it's one of the worst ones. And I wish I would have met you before we knew of her cancer. I just, I'm so grateful to have met you and for all the help that you're giving people and your knowledge and just your friendship. I cannot thank you enough just for being yourself. You've got an amazing family. What a journey. I'm telling you, you are a very blessed man, and there are people upstairs that are really pulling for you, because just hearing your story is so moving. And I could not think of anyone else I'd rather have on my first podcast than yourself. Darren Miller, quickly, because we've got to wrap up, please tell the people that are watching how they can find you, how they can connect with you. Just let them know where they can find you, man.
Okay. Well, we all have our own belief systems, our own political ways. I am being canceled because of my belief in my own political views and because of my medical views. So my Facebooks, my Twitters, all of them at any time could be gone and reestablished under new names. The way to get a hold of me is just my name, Darren Stephen Miller. Now, if you Google my name, there are hundreds of pictures and stories come up right away that say, oh, he's the scam artist or he's this, but most of them don't. They say Darren Miller saved his life on his own with the help of the medical system by using cannabis oil as a therapy. So just to Google Darren Stephen Miller or Darren Stephen Miller cancer, you can get the information to get a hold of me and my wife. She now has a PhD. My wife is Dr. Amy Miller now. Wow. Now, we're not talking a medical doctor, but she is a doctor. And believe it or not, me and my wife met homeless on the street as crack cocaine addicts. Now, I am in the news. I'm a little bit famous. People want to listen to my story and get a little inspiration so they can do it themselves. And my wife is now a doctor. And she has her it's in like a business management type law thing, which we're going to incorporate into our story and try to push this so the world can see that there are safer alternatives to what the doctors are doing to you when they tell you you have a very small chance of living because of a cancerous situation. So, we're just truly blessed.
Dude, thank you so much. We love you. We've got to wrap up here. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us today, man. I love you so much. Please send regards to the family. Thank you, and God bless you for what you're doing. I can't wait to see you guys soon. Thank you so much. Call Me Crazy with Darren Miller, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you soon.